Alright, so we're in the final push trying to get this motor started up. So I made a couple checklists so that I hopefully don't forget anything when I'm trying to do this. Hopefully everything goes well and we don't have any leaks. I'm just trying to be methodical about it. So we're going to basically be finishing up the cooling system for the radiator, the upper inlet, outlet, both to the radiator and to the water pumps. Verify those connections are all tight, steam vent connections tight and connected. Filling it up. Might just do water at first so I'm not wasting coolant. And then we'll start priming everything with oil, hooking up the final fuel lines, and then checking fuel pressure, setting fuel pressure, checking for leaks, and stay tuned. So here's the upper part that looks like it's mostly done. So we got the steam vent here coming off of the heads, comes across and comes into just about the highest point. Kind of angled it off so that it would make this a little bit straighter shot. Got this adapter in here, outlet of the water pump. So this is the thermostat housing, and typically where thermostat housing is, that's the outlet for the pump. And I've seen it done both ways. I don't know which way is right or wrong. Outlet, a lot of the conversions I've seen is they run the outlet to the bottom, which would make sense for this, the way this radiator is set up, because you got a port here and a port down there. And they run, a lot of people run this one to the bottom. But from what I understand, this is hot water coming out, comes to the top, heat rises, your cooler water should be down at the bottom. So I'm running it, at least on the run stand. I don't know if this is going to matter. You guys can comment whether I'm doing this right or wrong for the long term. Once it eventually goes into the car, it'll probably be completely different because it'll be a different radiator. But anyways, so we got this tight, comes up across the adapter, comes in the top, should come down. This is 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inches, so that wasn't an issue. Outlet here, this is 1 3/4, and I'm making a sweep. I have an adapter here that cuts it down to 1 1/4, and waiting for my one radiator hose to show up that can make the connection point from here all the way to here. So you can see my problem here is this is about 1 1/4 inches, and the connection down at the bottom is 1 3/4 inches, so I got a 1/2 inch difference, which is why there's this adapter here to convert. So one last piece of tubing should be here this afternoon, probably the next hour, 2 hours, to connect from here and there. And I'll double check to make sure all the water connections are nice and tight, and we'll start adding some water to this thing. So we got some coolant in it. If you listen closely, you can kind of hear it gurgling as some of the air is working its way out. You can feel it through here, so it's probably leaking through the weep hole in the thermostat here, allowing some air to come out. So we'll just let it go for a while. And once it starts and everything kind of flushes through, probably have to add some more water. But kind of just checking for leaks as it goes. So far, so good. Up in here, still dry. Up in here where the water pump bolts to the block. We'll just kind of keep going, looking for leaks. And so for priming the engine with oil, so we don't have a completely dry start, LS motor doesn't have a distributor, so you can't turn the oil pump with like a drill or anything like that. But there's an oil port on the side where you can kind of access the oil pump right here. And what I'm planning to do, at least what I've seen in other videos, is people use a sprayer. So I took the sprayer part off of it and just got the hose, and then found this adapter that should thread into there, and it's got a pipe thread fitting here. And I'm going to run this pipe barbed fitting into that, attach this hose to here, and I should be able to prime the engine. Give it, I don't know, so much PSI, and then crank the motor about 90 degrees and let it keep cranking, or keep pumping, pressurizing with oil, and just keep doing that until I get, I'm not quite sure how much oil I'm going to have to put into this thing. I'm guessing around 5 to 6 quarts, somewhere in there. But let's get this fitting all made up. So in preparation for priming this thing with oil, I'm going to hand crank the motor as I'm pressurizing oil through this port here. I took the spark plugs out so that there's no compression, so that it's easier to hand crank. So did that to both sides, took out all the spark plugs. So hopefully that will go a lot easier when I'm priming this thing with oil. And I'll be constantly checking the oil level to see how much it takes before it's fully pressurized and it's ran a little bit. But I'm guessing about 5 to 6 quarts of oil in this shallow oil pan that's supposed to go on, like, I think it's a C6 Corvette. But anyways, we're getting a little closer.
looks like it's kind of hard to see, but looking down inside there, I don't know if I can get the camera to pick it up. Looks like I'm starting to get some oil to come off the top of the push rod, looking down in there. But it's taken about, I refilled this again, so there's a total of about 5 quarts of oil that I should be putting it in, and I'll probably put it all in this way and then check the level to see what the level's at, and then I'll probably just crank the motor a little bit and run oil pressure gauge off of this to make sure that we're building oil pressure prior to trying to start this thing up. Okay, we got oil pressure line mechanically hooked up. We got the battery hooked up so we can crank, and we're going to see if we can build some oil pressure. Alright. Ignition. Awesome. We're building almost 50 psi, and it's cranking good. No crazy noises other than you can feel the air that it's moving coming out of the piston, out of the spark plug hole. So far so good. Might put a trickle charger on this thing, battery maintainer, just because we're still doing a lot of testing and stuff. All right.